clients, and he does a really good job. So it's a lot of information, so I hope you learn a lot. I'm going to pass it over to you.
Thank you, Julie.
Thanks.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for taking the time to stick around for an hour or so. We're going to talk about data, and data is around everywhere, right? It's not just the spreadsheets or the listing numbers and stuff like that. You know, you guys are obviously doing fantastic work in the community, and the stuff that you're going with the bikes, with the bicycle stuff, that's data. I walked in and I looked at this wall, and I noticed all the little pins on the wall there, right? Each one of these little tiny pins, it's a point of data. And on the wall there, they're just a representation of data. But in the real world, there is actually information underneath each one of those pins. And we could actually be looking at a map in which you could click on each one of those pins and actually unearth data that belongs to that pin. You can understand correlations between those pins, dates, dollars, transactions, trends. So everything is data. We're going to talk today specifically about some of the sources of data that might be familiar to you, and we're going to review some of the materials that are readily available to you, and then we can talk a little bit about customized information. So we're going to do a couple of things, and we're going to go really quick. We're going to talk about why do we even care, right? If you're not a math major or a stats major or a nerd that loves Excel and does Excel for fun, right? Data can be a little bit scary. Specifically, the analysis of data can be a little scary. So we're going to try to demystify a little bit of that. We'll go through some of the resources that are readily available to you today where you can just go and get some. Obviously, throughout the presentation, we'll talk about how do we translate charts and graphs and numbers into maybe stories that are a little bit more compelling. What does it mean to have a chart that goes this way or goes that way? Maybe we can come to an agreement on how to present some of that. And of course, if you're going to go through all the trouble of gathering the information and organizing the information and analyzing the information, why not use it to get some visibility out into your networks and your communities? So to get started, we're going to look at a short video. It's about 30 seconds that will explain in detail everything about data. And I tested it 3 times, and it worked every time. So we're going to go here. It never fails, right? And now we go. Here we go again.
Guys, just thought you might want to know, sales aren't up, they're down.
And that's data for real estate in a nutshell. Right? So you probably heard before that we can make statistics say anything we want. Is that true? Right? We've heard that before. And in essence, it's true. If we were to go and gather a sample of data and we cherry-pick the samples, and then we came to a conclusion based on the bias sample, we obviously can't come up with any conclusion that we want. So there are a couple of ways to looking at data. One is we have a theory. We have a thought. We have a number that we want to prove. And we go out and look for data and analyze that data. And either that thought that we have, the theory, either gets proven or disproven. The other way of doing it is we just go out and we gather a bunch of data and we just analyze it and look at where it takes us and what conclusion we reach. Neither one is better than the other. They're just different, right? The first one, however, has an element of ethics to it. So whatever it is that our hypothesis is at the beginning must be, to the best of our knowledge, true. And what I mean by that is, for example, if I am trying to prove that this house should be listed at $750,000, where in reality it should be $425,000, I can go out and seek data to almost come up with a 750 and try to justify it, but I would be doing a disservice, right? That would be unethical. It would in essence be untrue. So that is just kind of the caveat there. Whatever we're looking for to prove, we have to be very, very earnest to make sure that the sample set that we pick is reflective of our population. And then we analyze it and we come up to a conclusion and either proves it or disproves it. And we'll look at a sample in a little bit later where we can look at that again. Now, there is an additional benefit to you as a real estate professional in kind of putting your arms around data and the analysis of data. And that is the perception that you create with your community. And Robert Cialdini wrote a book that's called The Influence, the Psychology of Persuasion. And there are 6 laws in this book. And one of the laws is the law of authority. And that law basically states that people will follow the lead of credible and knowledgeable experts. So over time, as you put this information, the analysis of data, the conclusions that you reach from data out into your communities, into your networks, you will create over time the perception of a credible and knowledgeable expert, which will likely in turn give you the ability when you sit in front of the buyer, a seller, or someone who has been seeing those posts or that information come from you, to be able to understand, okay, if you are telling me this is where I should be listing, I know that over time you've been looking at the market. I know that over time you've been analyzing the data. I know that you follow the trends, so you must be right. So there is a kind of an underlying ability for you to help someone reach a conclusion and for them to follow you with that conclusion based on what Cialdini's research proved. Okay, so let's jump into a couple of the sources. At the very top is the RMLS, right? That will always be your best and closest resource. So what I want to do is go through a couple of the materials that are right now readily available to you without having to do a lot of heavy lifting. How many of you know that there is a little tab in RMLS that's called statistics? Right? And that's about what I expect. A little bit under half. And it's sitting there, it's like the second from the left. As you log in, there's a little tab that says statistics. And there are a couple of sub-menus under there. And so that's cool. I'm glad that not everybody knows because you might learn something new. And under those tabs is one that's called Statistics Summary Report. When you click on it, it opens basically a PDF with a bunch of links in it. So when you click on that, this is what you will see. And this encompasses, you mind if I take some photos? What you see is basically this encompasses your whole marketplace. So if you work outside the Portland metro area, you will have data for that as well. So we're going to focus today, of course, on the Portland metro area down here. And there's about 8 or 9 reports. These are already pre-made. So every month they're refreshed with the relevant data that belongs to that report. So let's look at a couple of them. Let's look at closed sales by month, by year. Closed sales by month, by year. So these are transactions that are being completed. And you see here, January, February, March, April, right? And then you have a seasonality curve that most of you would expect to see, right? It starts a little slow in the first couple of months of the year, then it kind of picks up over towards the summer, and then it kind of dwindles away kind of towards the end of the year. Now, a couple of things become kind of really apparent immediately as I look at this chart, right? And one is pretty much the exact mirror image of 12, 13, and 14. So as you walk around doing your job every day, you carry with you here a certain intuition, right? You know there's a certain seasonality to the closed transactions in your business year over year over year, right? There's a trend, there's an ebb and flow of business, and you know that. And if I had asked you before we got started, what would it look like? You probably would make this hand symbol, right? You'd probably go, it goes like that, right? Well, this is a visual representation of that intuition that you carry with you. Now, if you are a borrower, if you are a customer, and I ask you, or if you ask me, what does the real estate industry does, and you do this, that carries certain weight, right? But if you put a chart like this in front of someone and you're trying to tell them when business is done throughout the year, which one is more impactful, right? I believe this one would be. It does a couple of things as well. It shows you that there's obviously a seasonality, and then it shows you this year kind of what it's doing, right? Then over here, it's a little bit more historic, obviously, and you can see how it grew. The closed sales, we peaked in 2005, and then we had a decline from there. So historically, you can see there the events over the last couple of decades. And then you look at this year, which is 2015, and it's following basically the same pattern with a little elevated magnitude, right? So there are more, but it's basically following the same pattern. And then down here, you will have all of the numbers, the actual data that goes into making that chart. So let's look at another one. Let's look at prices. So we look at closed transactions. So that's numbers of transactions. Now let's look at dollars. Average sales price per month. So these are the averages of what properties are selling for throughout the year. So it starts in January, February. So we're looking at the red one is 2012. Then the purple one is 2013, 2014, and 2015, right? So almost you can tell that if you were to stack it instead of on top of each other, if it was a chronological continuation, this one would hook up to the end of that one, right? And then on and on and on. So you can see there's an evolution, an increase in the average sales prices. Now let's talk about averages for a second. What is an average? This is the participation part.
It's the highest and lowest divided by, it's like all of them added divided by how many you consider content.
Yes, so is the sum of the samples divided by the number of samples, okay? Now, what is a median? Okay, so the median is your data sets, your data values arranged from low to high or high to low, and then we count. And we find the middle position, not the middle value, but the middle position. And whatever that middle position is, you look, and that's your value, okay? So we're basically counting the number of events, the number of samples, and then we look the middle position, and that's our value. Why is one more desirable than the other? Or why would we use one or the other in any event? We're using averages here, we're not using medians.
You could have one really high or one really low sale for an average.
Exactly. So in which one?
You could have a high or really low.
And which would affect which of the two, or both?
Oh, the average.
That would affect the average, and that's exactly right. The averages are susceptible to outliers. In other words, if in our sample set we have either really high highs or really low lows, it will skew our average value, right? So think of it this way, you have 100 values, and they're all 202, 203, 204, and these are all home prices, right? 202, 3, 204, 205, 201. We expect to get an average somewhere in there in the middle, low 100s, right? But imagine that in our data set, there is a $700,000 value. All of a sudden, when we run our average, we just pull that average into the 400s or the 500s without ever having had a single value in our set that was in that range. So some people say, well, we'll drop the highest high and the lowest low, and I just inoculated myself from those errors. Would that be effective?
It depends.
It
It
depends
on the number of outliers.
Exactly right. See, you guys know this stuff. So if I have a data set and I grab my highest high and my lowest low and go with that. If I only have one outlier, I'm okay. But what if I have several outliers, right? And unless I look at my data, maybe if I have 50 data points, I can eyeball. But if I have 100,000, I might not be able to eyeball, right? So that's why we run sometimes both the average and the median, so we have a calibration of, it gives us a sense of whether we have any outliers or not. In this case, can you tell whether there are outliers or not? I think you can, because you don't have any anomalies. And we'll look at some others where you see anomalies, and you will be able to point those out. But in this case, you have a normal data set, and you can see there, what can we conclude from here about what's happening with prices?
Right now,
Yeah, go ahead, right? And then you can see here what they did, average sales prices over time. The data is down here. So those are all there. And we won't go through all of these because we have limited time, but I just wanted to point out that we have a lot of really good, already pre-made, current data from RMLS. So if you want to know what our price is doing, I got a call the other day from an agent wanting to know if I had any information on what our price is doing in the Portland metro area, right? Yes.
In that pull down, does it give you a place to break it down by neighborhood or zip code or anything like that?
Good question, and we're going to look into that. These ones are for the whole Portland metro area, right? So these are not specific to one area or one neighborhood. This is fairly global, okay? So I'm going to show you next. It gives you a little bit of ability to calibrate some of the information. So there's a lot of information here that is ready to go for your whole Portland metro area. Next, you have what is called the comparable report. The next three are customizable, and they are able to be brought down to a certain degree of granularity. So this one, for example, comparable market report summary, and it's again, RLS is one of those little choices. This one is, and I pulled this one the 12th of August. So this one I chose residential, Washington County, sold only, and then I went from January to August, and for the sold date, and then pending, January to August, and then list. So you can see here, these are all variables that you can select. So there is some level of granularity here. So in this case, it's by county. And there might be additional selections that you can make. So if you wanted, if we have more time, we could actually log into our MLS and look. It will look really familiar to you. When you jump in there, all the selections of criteria are the same format that you would use when you were doing your CMAs. The drop downs and the check boxes and all of those things are the exact same format that you would use for your RMLS CMAs. So these are some of the fields that you're able to choose. In this case, I chose pretty much everything for Washington County. So that's a really fat sample. I did that on purpose, obviously, to get more data. And so for this particular one, you get a report graph that has the average and median sold terms to start. So these are residential properties, Washington County. And this is the type of financing that is occurring during that time period. So these stats, cash, conventional, and you can see here, so the blue is average and the green is median, right? So what would that tell me about the data? Where my average is higher than my median, right? And are they extreme outliers? Right? If this was half the height, if the median was half the height, you know, just for proportion's sake, not for numbers, but if this one was way taller, right, that would tell me that the weight of the number of samples are on the high side on the average. Does that make sense? The further away my average goes from my median tells me where the data is skewed towards, either towards to higher highs or to lower lows. Does that make sense? Or also tells me that there could be extreme outliers. So one or the other, but it tells me that there's a weighting in the data that tends it to move it more on this end than on this end. Does that make sense? So just by looking at those two little lines, I get a sense for the composition of the data. I don't know exactly, but I can get a sense that there are higher highs in more of them than the lower. Total units sold by bedrooms. This is Washington County, right? If I were to ask you again, intuition, right? Which number of bedroom composition is sold the most in Washington County? You would probably just jump in and say 3 bedrooms, probably, right? And you would have been exactly right. This right here is proof that your intuition as a professional is true. And so again, if I have a 6-bedroom or a 7-bedroom that I'm listing, I'm able to show this to my sellers and say, hey, most of the properties over here are this kind. So chances are that just because you are here, you're not going to get double the money. You know what I'm talking about? There is a market for homes in this area for this, because that's traditionally what's there. These are, in essence, outliers for the traditional home. So our marketplace is smaller. So we have to make adjustments for that. And that is proven when we look at this one. We have 3 bedrooms, so there's an average median price by bedroom, right? So price per bedroom. So it goes up 1 bedroom, 2 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms, 4 bedrooms, 5 bedrooms. But guess what? It doesn't continue on that trend. There's a diminishing value once we get to 6 and 7 bedrooms, right? So a seller with 6 bedrooms or a seller with 6 bedrooms can't expect for this value trend or this price trend to continue on their favor. There's a diminishing value at that point. Okay? So this is something, if you pull it for the area that you're looking to analyze, you can start to see there are some things happening here in the marketplace that are telling the sellers something that could be potentially counterintuitive, right? I have a bigger house, I have more bedrooms, therefore I should be more. Buyers are paying more. When in fact, the data proves that that's not true. And then you have all the data down here, right? If you wanted to actually look at the numbers that go to make up that particular chart. Let me show you one more here. This particular one is just a stratification of the total home sales. So basically, I just pull solds, and it's just going to segment either solds or actives or pendings into their corresponding categories. It just basically, have you guys seen like a splatter chart? Where it has like the dots, a scattered chart? It has the dots everywhere. This is similar to that, but it's just the numbers. So it tells you, for example, that in the 200 and 299, there are 17 of these, 31 of these, 6 of these. Does that make sense? So it just kind of gives you a sense of where, in this case, solds for area 148 are concentrated. So it gives you a sense of competition. It gives you a sense of clustering in the numbers there for each particular category. So these are residential units excluding condos, and then condos over here, right? So residential units in the 2, 3, or plus 4, so you can see the numbers clustered down here. That it will show you, okay, how many 3 bedrooms are sold in this particular price chart. Because that would be, generally, if you're looking at your market, you're looking in, $20,000, $50,000 up or down. You're in that band, right? So it would show you what competition you have or have had in there. And then this one, the market trend report, this one is really good. This one has a lot of information. Again, this is a little bit customizable. So this one I did 12 months back in Washington County, residentials, detached only, all the bedrooms and all the square footage. Again, trying to get a bigger sample. Tells you how many listed there are, how many solds within that time frame, and then it gives you minimum, maximum, average, and median. And then active units, solds, months of inventory, okay? And then it puts it on a graph down here. So let's look at that graph for a sec. Okay, so you have August of 24, August, September, October, November, December. And you can see the traditional seasonality take place that we saw earlier from the summer months and of course. So the red blocks are solds. So you can see it kind of going away and coming back. Then you have the blue, these are listings coming in, this is inventory. And then you have pending units down here.
What's the first month? I'm sorry.
The first month is August 2014. Okay. So what does this tell me? The difference between listings and solds from here to here. See how this one is inside the red and this one is outside the red? What does that tell me about inventory?
Yeah, there's more inventory, but it's not necessarily moving. It's not necessarily closing. Moving is fast. Yes.
Okay. So what I conclude out of this change in the position of the line in relation to the red is that it's a gradual building of inventory, right? So there's inventory coming into the market, and it's outpacing what is going out of the market. So if I'm having a conversation with a seller who is thinking that every single house is having a bidding war and every single house is selling immediately because the inventory is going away, I would put a chart in front of them like this and say, well, you know, assuming that this is close to the neighborhood in which they are, we actually have a building of inventory. And if this trend were to continue, that means that the longer we wait, the harder time we're going to have because we're building competition, right? So competition is getting more aggressive as the inventory builds. So that could be detrimental to that seller if we have more and more inventory coming on the market. And then you have pendings, and you can see the pending virtually together here with the solds, or the pendings virtually together with the listings, and then start separating, right? Again, that tells me the properties are probably sitting on the market a little bit longer, right? Because they're not consuming the listings coming in. So after they come in, they go pending, that's the green line, and then they go sold. So we got a little bit of a predictability ability on this chart. If you notice, we have the bottom here. So if I have that bottom here, I would expect it to be there. And then pendings go up. Where do I expect the red one to be? The next month. You know, property transactions are taking, what, 30, 45 days to close right now? So I would expect that to see a little higher. And as I get up here, I see a peaking of the pendings, right? And start turning around. So I have that at the peak, and then it flattens out, and there's those two red ones flattening out. And then I have two flat ones over here on the green. Where would I expect to see the red one over here? Flattish or lower, right? So I can tell that my sales are going to start declining. Would that be traditional with the seasonality that I would expect to see? It would be, right? So this again is proving to me that that seasonality is more likely to continue, regardless of everything and all the fraud and all the craziness in the news in the marketplace. Seasonality is most likely to hold the way there's always held. So I have maybe a couple of flattish to lower lines down here coming down towards the winter time as the traditional seasonality continues. Yes?
Can you do this for a small area?
Yes, I think you can do it for
Like a zip code?
148. I think you can do it for, I think
Inner southeast,
you can do it for our MLS area.
You can't do it by map, right?
You can't do it by that. No.
and you can't do it by like zip code.
I don't believe so.
In some of them, you can use zip code. I don't know about all of them, but
Some of them you can choose. You can buy some.
yeah.
You can choose elementary school.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, some of them allow you elementary school, I think. Yeah. Again, these are pre-built for you, so they allow you only so much customization. And I do want you to kind of keep in your back pocket the fact that you work with Julie, and if ever you want to sit down and build some, and that's kind of how I end my slides. If you want to build your own analysis engine that wants to look at a particular set of data, we can help you put that together. So you grab your data from RMLS, we plunk it into Excel, we run the analysis, and we build some charts off of that. It does require that you have some basic Excel capabilities, but we have, and I'll show you at the end some of the tools that we built. Average and median price per month, again, this is pricing, very, very important. Fairly flat. There's obviously an increase. The green is sold median down here. The blue is listed median. And it's not extreme, but these two are separate, right? So the sold median is below the listed median. So what does that mean for a seller who is thinking every property is getting into a bidding war and I should get more than I asked?
They're all too much.
Right? Whatever they're hearing is not true in the marketplace as represented by this data set, right? And if I have a chart and I'm able to cite the sample and basically the way in which I went to picking that sample in an unbiased manner, and to show that, right, I can say if this sample represents your marketplace, it is less likely than likely that you will get into a bidding war. Now, if we price it correctly, right, and we attract the right number of people, we might be able to. But if we jump up and above the median here, right, then it's more likely to not be. And I'll show you another chart in a little bit. It has some, whoa! Okay, let me go real fast here. How many of you get the Outliers report? Okay, so this is money in your pocket. Get your email to Julie, and every week in your inbox, you'll get an Outliers report like this. It has all the cities, and it has really cool analysis of Portland in this case. Again, this is very global, right? It's the whole city of Portland, but if you like to do a specific zip code, make sure you tell Julie, and we run those on demand. So if you need a specific zip code, we can run that for you. This is huge because this is the analysis for the week of what's happening in that particular area. So this is for the whole Portland, but you can get a smaller sample. So you have the median list price. So this is a summary of what's happening in Portland for this week. Median list price, 422, double arrows going like this. It means there's a stable trend for the week. Asking price per square foot, 198, stable. Days on the market, 88 days, stable. I have 3 data points going this way. What does that tell me about what the market in Portland is doing?
It's stable.
Right? It's not going up. So if we're looking for increased prices or days on the market to continue to come down, we're probably at the peak of where we're going to be for the season, and most likely in subsequent weeks, we will follow that seasonality trend that we saw early that is starting to kind of take hold again for the year. So that seasonality trend taking us to a slower part of the year. Look at this one. Percentage of properties with price decrease. What's the percentage if you were to tell me? How many properties in Portland are discounting to get sold? If you were to just pick a number, right, you'd probably say very few, right? 39%. Better than 1 in 3 homes out there at some point, either during the listing period or at the listing negotiate, the sales negotiation, are discounting to get sold. 39%, 40-10. That is huge, right? If I have this in front of me when I get to a seller, and I can do it either when we're trying to price correctly, or if an offer is coming in, I better have this with me, right, just in case they want, the offer is not full price, and it's an offer that we consider to be a good offer. We gotta tell the sellers, listen, this is the reality. 4 out of 10 homes are discounting to get sold. So don't feel like you're the only one in the universe, right? You're not the only seller in Portland. And there's a whole bunch of data, really, really good information about your marketplace that you can use here. I want to point this one out. So this is The market action index, an index of 30, is a balanced market between buyers and sellers, so it's a balanced market. Above 30 is a seller's market, below 30 is a buyer's market. So in about June of 2014, we went into a strong seller's market. The green is a 7-day rolling average. Okay? Look at what happened there. A big old spike. This is a rolling average. What does that mean? Big old spike there. Right? We have a ridiculous outlier. Right? That right there is the personification of a ridiculous outlier. So it could be a mistake in the data, most likely, and then it comes back down and settles in again. So that's a good way if you see your data and all of a sudden you see like something just come out, like whoa, there's a problem there, right? So it might be a sample that doesn't belong or a mistake in the data that we need to look at. Prices, of course, again, if you look at the prices here, steady increase. We get to end of July, that's a peak, and now we're trending the other way. Okay, so that's what prices are doing. You probably are sensing it here, right? You probably are going out there and not feeling as excited about what the prices are doing, right? It is not a strong downward trend, it's the beginning of a trend, but that chances are that we peaked for a little while. Rates are going to change. What is that going to do to home values? If rates go up, what is that going to do to demand? Right? We might see a quick little spike. Everybody that was on the fence trying to whoa, and then a reduction in demand for sure. Then we have, again, the stratus again. You have, if I have a property that's in the 520s, I really don't care what the 220s are doing. So this is a breakdown by quartiles, and then it tells you everything about what's happening in that quartile as far as characteristics for that data set. Okay, I'm gonna just blow through some of this real quick. So you go and gather all this data. There's a whole bunch of other things that are in this tool set. You're going to get a copy of the presentation. All the links on the PDF are live. So just click on them. You'll be able to look at all the charts and everything that I showed you. There's one for buyers right here. I built this one to help buyers understand the financial cost of waiting. Interest rates are going up, and there is some actual dollars and cents repercussion for waiting. So if you have any buyers right now that are like this, put this in front of them. We can do a smaller presentation if you want. You have to use that one. So you can put in paper this, it's going to cost you $22,000 to wait if you don't pull the trigger now and go out and look and find something. So we can show you that later. So imagine you went out and gathered all this data and you have all this information. And obviously, one of the uses will be sitting down with buyers and sellers, helping them make the best decisions, right? We're going to analyze the market, we're going to analyze the situation, we're going to analyze the samples, and then we're going to make recommendations based on whatever the data is telling us. But there's other things that you can do with it, and that is create visually appealing representations of the data and the conclusions that you're reaching. So, for example, just real quick, how many of you use Canva? Oh my gosh, nobody? Canva.com. One, okay. All these are free. Well, this one is not. But Canva, it's an online image editor, and you can do something like this in about 5 minutes. So imagine that you have a farm, or you have an area of town, or house or something that you have a couple of interesting points of data. In this case, I just picked up a fictitious neighborhood and I said, well, what are 3 things that are interesting about it? This age distribution, right? So under 5, 6 to 10, and over 10. And it really just click on it and you pull on these things and type over, And within a couple of minutes, you can have something like this, that is an image that you can put on Facebook, Pinterest, Twitter, LinkedIn, everything, right? How many of you use Buffer? Anybody? No? So Buffer is a little syndicator where you can have a piece of data that you want to share, something that you want to post to your social media outlets. And with a click, you can send something to Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, Google+. So it's really easy to kind of do kind of a syndicated post to all of your social media with something that is visually appealing. Here's one down here. It's part of Buffer, it's called Pablo. And every day they have a inspirational little thing sitting right there for you to share. But they also allow you to do some customization. So this one, for example, I just made up. Portland real estate is on the move. Average listing prices up 8.5 year over year. There was something a couple of days ago, basically just talking about prices coming up. I think 7% in the Portland metro area year over year last year. So, you know, I just grab that, put it in there, Google up green arrow, and drop that in there. Literally 5 minutes. So one of the things that you want to do is if you're gathering data and you're coming to any interesting conclusions, grab that and put it in a visually appealing format and then share the heck out of it, right? It goes everywhere. Those kinds of little things get a lot of interaction on social media because they're visually appealing, they're interesting. There's stuff that people can repeat and reshare. So feel free to do that. And then of course, video. Video is huge, right? And if you're not today having a strategy on video, a lot of us don't like to be on camera. So we can use other tools to provide video. Video has the highest interaction of any other media. So if you put a Facebook post or you have a post on your blogs that have video on it, they get like 3 times more clicks than any other type of posts. So you have a day, you know, full-time job, you don't get to sit there and create little videos, but there are places where you can go and get them. Like for example, this one is called Real Trends. Every month they do a national real estate report. And so I'm just gonna play like 2 seconds of it just so you can get a feel for what it looks like. So they have this out there once a month for the month, they're national. And then
housing sales were up nationally in the first month of the new year compared with January 2014. But the gain does not come without some concern. Welcome to this edition of the Real Trends Housing Market Report. Home sales grew a modest 1.3% for the nation as a whole this January over last, or just under 5.7 million houses.
Local, what would you want to share national real estate data?
It helps with perspective.
Right? Absolutely. We start here, and then we come down to the hyperlocal, right, to the neighborhood of the customer. And where do clients get their information about real estate most often, if it's not you? The news. And what is the news going to be talking about? National real estate information, right? And so who better than you to provide that data to your clients, and also for you to have some control about what they're seeing. You look at a video like this, you audit it. If it looks good, you grab it, you post it into social media, and who do the clients, your network, feels that share that information with them? It's you, right? And all it took is a couple of clicks to grab it from YouTube, embed it on your blog, or embed it on your Facebook, and it goes out, right? And people are going to click on it, and that gets a lot of interaction going on. So videos, and these are national. There's a company called Market Trends that is hopefully coming to town soon. I just talked to the CEO I talked to their CEO about 3 weeks ago. We're trying to figure out for RMLS to loosen up a little bit. So these they have in other parts of the country where they use your RMLS data to create these. Again, because Julie's your rep, if you have an interest on video and you would like to create a couple of templates to create your own branded videos, we can consult with you individually or as a brand to figure out, what kind of data, how we collect data, what conclusions we reach so we can share it out there, and then how we pass it along to all of you so you can put them on your social media. This is huge. Everybody needs to be doing this for sure. And then, we, individually as an agent, if you want. And then we also have customized analysis, like I said earlier. If you have an interest in your own neighborhood, we can sit down with you and kind of do a consult on how do I get the data from MLS for my neighborhood or my farm, and what are the things that I want to know. So you can drop it into Excel on a monthly basis or whatnot. What charts do you want to see? And then we can create you a little tool that will allow you to do some of the analysis that you want. It will require a little bit of Excel sophistication, that how to run some things, but we can make it as automated as possible. So hopefully that will be useful to you as well. We always post stuff, so if you want to follow some of it, we'll follow up with you with the presentation with all the links. I skipped over a bunch of stuff. So feel free to look at it. If you have any questions, we're a phone call away. Julie will always be your first line of defense, but she can bring me in. And we are just very thankful that you spent the time with us. Hopefully everybody got at least one thing out of it. And make sure that you get your credit hour. And we appreciate your time very, very much. Thank you very much.